Hello, this is Jared playing Oxygen Not Included. We'll try filming the next episode a little bit different, just concentrating on the major highlights. We'll see how this goes. So what this is two steam turbines, and this is with advice that comes from Terracom, which I find very interesting, which suggests if your temperature is above 300, block the tiles with insulated tiles like I have here. So each of these steam turbines only have 2 tiles that are accessible, and because there's going to be really hot steam in here, what that means is there'll be less water to be able to absorb, but the same amount of power. And since this system is about producing power, that's not really a problem. But because there's less water going to be dropped over here, this is going to cool much slower, and these guys will take on less heat, which means my cooling system for this whole setup, which is up here, won't have to run as much, adding to a little bit of an overall power savings. So let's make this thing connected. I will start with getting water to be dropped over. So that's going to send water in here. I've got a smart battery, and now this is another piece of advice that basically just says directly, disable these guys. Don't bother storing water on the side. So we'll see how this goes. Just a very tiny amount of water. We'll see what we get out of this. So, oh yeah, let's put in appropriate settings, because right now these guys are disabled. Let's put in, I'll try 70, we'll try 75, and we'll stop at 90. Whoops, that's not 90. The other way around. So at 75% power in this battery, it'll tell these guys to run, and at 90 it will go off. Actually, with the well, let's temporarily, I'll change this later on. Let's temporarily not consume hydrogen until we get to 50%. And then furthermore, let's make some steel. Say a dozen pieces of that. Oh, it's not a dozen, that's just one. Okay, so a dozen pieces of steel. So just to kind of up the power consumption. So that should put a drain on this battery. So right now, okay, liquid is going in. Hoping that, okay, it's already above 300 degrees, so these 2 tiles are looking like they're going to be fine. Battery is dropped. It's enabled these guys. They're not at maximum power just yet. Notice it says 3 of 5 are blocked, but it does. Oh, we're at full. It's producing the full amount of power, at least for this one. Might have to give this another second. Oh, and that maybe that was because this was disabled. Because I'm not taking water in and out, actually, why wouldn't I have that as 100? We'll see how this goes. Actually, you know what? Because this is a completely different setup, let's change this to 90. Okay, so I've got very hot liquid, well, steam at the moment now. And smart battery telling whether it goes in or not, these 4 different tiles, which are available. And we must be at maximum power. Once we go down to 90%, they will go on again, like that. Now, from what I understand, you want to have them, you don't want to have it 99% like the hydrogen. That's because these take a little bit of time to warm up to their maximum. This might just do it. This looks pretty good. So, of course, this whole thing is, in addition, in a power plant, so I can give these guys tune-ups, which they have already. Feeding this guy lead to be able to do that. This looks pretty awesome. This door over here, you can just open that up. I've brought carbon dioxide. I had a vacuum area here, but that was just so I could do some construction down here. Now I've got carbon dioxide in this zone, which is fine. So we're not sure about this guy. Is that just because... No, it's enabled. Doesn't quite seem to be getting the power with 2 tiles. Okay. I'll observe that one. Let's look at the cooling system then. So of course I got to keep these guys cool, even with less water going in. That there's less heat, but we got to get. I'm sending this brine line through. And that's going to visit the top of this steam turbine and as well as the top of these two and go into an aqua tuner when cooling is needed. Oh, and I don't have that plugged in because I wanted to disable that until there was liquid in there, but we're now ready to go. There's the aqua tuner running. Current temperature is safe, so cooling's not needed at the moment, so we shouldn't see this run. But when things do get too hot, this thing will take over and add a bit of cooling to our system. That is amazing. So power. Okay, so yeah, now two of these are at maximum power production. This is going to allow us to make a lot more steel, which I want to put into the other world for optimizing plastics. Maybe we'll up the numbers of iron a bit. Maybe put a dozen more pieces of this. And let's put 33 pieces of there and see where we get. So I've dug out this area and I went after 2 Wheezy warts. And this is because of a tip that comes from Death 1, which basically says plant those Wheezy warts next to your Rebel generator for early material study terminal research. So I've done that and I've put 2 of them there. This pip, I've had to, of course, put that guy in there to help out, but they planted 1 Wheezy wart. They'll eventually plant another one over here. So that's increased the radiation to almost 250 without these even being on. So now we have 2 Wheezy warts. That's producing almost 500 rads per cycle. And that's without these machines even being turned on. Another thing, down here I discovered one thing that I was doing wrong, and I was wondering why this guy wasn't operating at prime efficiency. And that's because this guy is essentially blocking this guy from outputting its material. So I added a little pipe here, and this should be pretty easy. If I just cut this and then connect it over here, that should stop happening. Alright, so now this guy won't be blocked. So now, yeah, this is looking a little bit healthier. Now they're both at maximum. I thought maybe it had to do with what tiles I had cut underneath it. I didn't really think that made a lot of sense. But yeah, this makes sense. You do not want to block these guys, even temporarily. So this area is very bright, thanks to all the shine bugs deciding to take over this area. But what I'm doing is bringing over petroleum for the very first time. And that's just so that I can use it for a liquid lock in a few cases. Don't need a lot, but I'll have that brought over. And let's see, I'll aim for about 200 or so kilograms of that. At the same time, I have a new door that goes out in space. And this is thanks to another advice that I've gotten. If you put a tile here and here over this door, it just sort of limits the amount of gas that can get out. It doesn't block it completely, but does reduce it from if you just have these tiles exposed. So now the dupes can go out in space for the very first time on this base. So now I'm working on a food storage location. That's why I had the petroleum brought in, because that's forming a liquid lock. I've created a vacuum right here and in this zone. And I'm going to put hydrogen in this zone, but this tile is actually where I'm going to store food. I'm going to get rid of the pump since I already have a vacuum created. But this guy can access both food and ingredients that are, well, it's mostly ingredients I care about. But they can access ingredients that's stored right here, even though I've got 2 insulated tiles side by side. That's a new feature. I didn't know that is something the auto sweeper could do. But ever since they've added the ability for highlighting what the auto sweeper can access, it highlighted that fact to me. And with that knowledge, if I put my equipment down, kitchen equipment down here, I know that the auto sweeper could take ingredients and put it into these 2 guys. So that's how I'm going to do that. And of course, I want to drop ingredients and food here. If it's in hydrogen, that's going to be very good thermodynamics, so that if I cool off this zone, it'll cool off the food very quickly. So now I've got hydrogen in this area. I've managed to cool it down quite a bit, and that's natural cooling, at least right now. I've got this ethanol line that's visiting this very cold area. So it was pretty simple without power, bringing the temperature way down here. So now what I want to start to do is throw my ingredients to be stored in there. So let's do that. Have this automation equipment put in. Get this conveyor loader set up. And that's going to take, where it's cooking ingredients. Actually, I'll just click all of them. But really, we're pretty much going to be targeting slate wheat in this case. So that is going to be picking it up automatically. So it's something the dupes don't have to do. And it's going to make it all the way down here, where it'll not only be stored, but it will be frozen, where it'll be lasting forever. This guy will have access to it. So whenever slate wheat needs to be loaded into the gas range, that can be done automatically. And then if later on I'm going to store food in here, that's what this is for, that's cooked. And the dupes will be able to go in here. I've got this little vacuum area to give temperature protection. Just look at the temperature. So in here is very, very cold. That's the whole idea, but the rest of the base is unaffected by it. Alright, so with that online, we now have a storage system for both food and ingredients. Have two new lines. One line is a meat line. It's taking meat that's produced in this room and having that stored over here. Another line is from over here. I have that grub fruit, still depending on that for the next little bit. And I want to make sure that doesn't go bad. That's technically an ingredient because that's being turned into grub fruit, roast grub fruit nut. And the idea is anything that's cooked, such as a roast grub fruit nut and barbecue meat, I'm going to check here. And what that'll do is this auto sweeper will pick it up whenever it's cooked. And a little tiny line is going to drop it off right here. So this is essentially where my ingredients are. And this is where all the food is. So the dupes will go in here when they want to get some food and go and eat it. And the reason I've separated the two of them is just because I don't want this guy to have an infinite loop. It doesn't have access to the food. Otherwise, it will keep reloading it in there. Got a new polymer press. This time, it's over on the base that's producing the oil, or has the oil, as well as the natural gas. But it's surrounded by insulation. It has a steam turbine above it. And the idea is I can start to send petroleum into it. Do that right here. So once petroleum gets in this thing, it'll start to produce plastic, and all the heat is going to be managed by this. I just need to tell this guy here, pick up, I believe it's industrial ingredient, plastic, or no, it's not ingredient, it's manufactured material, plastic, have that dropped out. Just for a little bit of convenience, I decided to have it dropped off over here, just so that the dupes are a little bit closer to it. And if I ever want to transport some to the other world, it'll be easy to do that, because I'll probably be doing that at some point. So there it is. The polymer press is on. And the first piece of plastic in this new system is about to be created. So it's a lot of manual work for the dupes to populate these feeders. So what I decided to do is lower the priority. So now it's a priority 4. Of course, that's going to have a negative effect on the hatches. So what I'm going to do instead is get the dupes to load all that's the sandstone that these things are eating here. I will then tell this raw material sandstone, and that's going to direct all of that sandstone. We'll have to up the priority higher than the bin. It's going to direct it into this conveyor loader, and that will access all 3 different, well, it's not going to access the feeders, but it'll access the auto sweeper, and the auto sweeper is the one that's going to actually feed these critters from this point on. And let's just verify with all this equipment. I'm pretty sure it is, but we still have disable 96, 96, and 96. Excellent. So we've got a new farm. This is for the pinch of pepper plants. So what's going on here is I've got a heating system to make sure that the plants are warm enough. And what that's doing is taking the radiant pipe, polluted water going through this, feeding through this in an infinite loop. And the plants will consume a little bit of polluted water. when it's needed, and this automation is going to push more polluted water when it's needed. Now, this whole system is going to need phosphorite, so I've got that stored here. Auto Sweeper is going to be putting it in for us. And the other input, of course, is polluted water. So I've got a line running all around the base from down here. We got a simple filtering mechanism over here that's filtering for polluted water and storing it half a tank or so in there. So that gives us all the ingredients to make pepper bread. And of course, also going to be taking the ingredients and storing it in the infinite storage area. But that means that I can make pepper bread, but we don't have natural gas. So I've got a connection between here and the other world, and I just need to go over there and make sure I get my natural gas. So we have a new hydrogen system here, essentially looking for not oxygen. As long as oxygen is not here, this will continue pumping. That's going to be sending hydrogen, or rather, well, whatever gas, I guess, is in there. And I'm selecting two different things. Well, let's get rid of these. Don't want to just push it out. But we're storing carbon dioxide, chlorine if it's there. Otherwise, we're going to store natural gas here. And in priority order, we're going to send hydrogen, or sorry, natural gas that's here towards the home world. So that's lots and lots of natural gas that I'll be able to start cooking with over there, making pepper bread. Just expanded the sleet wheat farm. So we've got several pieces more growing, and I'll just have the piping changed. That's going to cool off these new plants. So in addition to that, we've got a new enclosed telescope, and Brains is going to be able to look out and see what there is in space. Of course, that means we have to have an oxygen line brought out a little bit further. So that's going off the main base and accessing the telescope. And finally, we have the first pieces of pepper bread that have been created and stored in this zone. So this is in a deep freeze, and it's going to last forever until the dupes eat it. Well, I think that's going to be it for today. Just some of the highlights is I'm now producing power down here from the hot magma. And I am producing my first pieces of pepper bread. That's thanks to the gas range, as well as the sleet wheat and the pinch of pepper plant farm. We have a telescope that we're able to start exploring space. And over on this world, two main things are going on. First of all, finally taking that natural gas and sending it to the other world so that I can cook some pepper bread, storing different types of gas along the way. And now we are producing crude oil. So this is thanks to water going into this system and the cooling that's going on. And that's being converted down here to petroleum. And we're producing plastic in a temperature-controlled way. And now I'm having all that plastic teleported right back to the other world so that we can build some interesting things with it. Well, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of a faster pace of this particular episode, if you like, or if you liked it the way before. Otherwise, thanks for any likes, subscribing, and hopefully I will see you in a future episode where we'll continue to expand this base and see where we can get to. Until then,